Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Cook with OC program today. Before we begin today's webinar, Osteoporosis Canada acknowledges the land that our offices located in Toronto are on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. My name is Tracie Napoli, Director of Fund Development at MARCOM at Osteoporosis Canada, and I will be your host for today. Want to thank thinkbeef.ca for their partnership with this cooking demo. Now, this cooking demo will provide general information about cooking and food knowledge. It's not intended as individualized health or nutrition advice, but if you have questions about nutrition, consult a physician or registered dietitian. Now, during the webinar, we want to hear from you. So if you have a question or comment, just click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and enter it there. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can during the webinar within the time available. Now, nutrition is a key component for strengthening and maintaining healthy bones, as well as in the prevention and management of osteoporosis. Osteoporosis Canada recommends, whenever possible, to get calcium and protein through food sources. So we're working to provide strategies, new ideas, and develop recipes to help you get the bone-building nutrients needed for bone health. So including protein in your diet at every meal benefits muscle and bone health. And some examples are beef, eggs, fish, white beans, chickpeas, nuts, milk, yogurt, and cheese. Now, the featured ingredient in today's cooking demo is beef, which has many essential nutrients packed into each small serving and is a high-quality protein, providing nutrients that are difficult to get from other foods like iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. Beef is also a concentrated source of nutrients, providing a variety of essential vitamins and minerals for a small amount of food. Also, you need to make sure you eat a variety of foods, including fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and foods that contain calcium like yogurt, cheese, legumes, broccoli, bok choy, and almonds. Now, there are lots of challenges sometimes to people getting the bone-building nutrients they need, but some ways that you can help yourself: make sure that you plan your meals in advance, which is a great idea. Choose versatile ingredients. You want to keep pantry staples on hand. And also, sometimes if you're not too fond of cooking, just pick a day or two during the week to do some food prep so that meals come together quickly the rest of the week. And of course, our favorite is to freeze it. Now, after the webinar, we're going to send out a survey, so we're going to look forward to getting some feedback from you on today's Meals in Minutes recipes. Today's featured recipes, we have two, and you can do these two recipes with a little advanced planning and cooking to get your meals on the table in minutes. The two Meals in Minutes recipes are Ricotta Veggie Beef Pasta with 43 grams of protein and 250 milligrams of calcium per serving, and the beef and vegetable stir fry with 31 grams of protein and 175 milligrams of calcium per serving. Now, the base recipe for each of these meals, which you would prepare in advance, is the big batch calcium boosted beef, and you can tuck it into your freezer when you prepare it and have it on hand for when you need it. Now, you can get these recipes all on the Osteoporosis Canada website at osteoporosis.ca/recipes. I will also put the recipes links in the chat. It's now my pleasure to welcome our friend Emily Richards, a professional home economist, freelance food writer, chef, and she is the author and co-author of 10 cookbooks. Emily also writes and develops recipes for print and online publications that include everyday cooking and healthy eating, and she can be found on TV, radio, and webcasts just like this one. So welcome, Emily.
Hey, Tracie. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Happy International Women's Day to everybody. I'm feel like osteoporosis was on board. I feel like the color is purple. So it's, a match made in heaven, Tracie.
I agree. Happy International Women's Day to you too, and to everyone who's watching. So we're really excited to have everyone here. And since you mentioned the apron, before we get started, have an apron that we're going to give away. So if you are on this webcast at the end and I call your name, I'm going to send you this unbreakable osteoporosis apron so that you can cook along with us too. It's beautiful, Emily. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, I had to get started. I had to kind of get things going for our get together and get cooking. So I have a pot of water boiling away with some pasta in it because I'm working on the first recipe. And as Tracie mentioned, this one's great because there's components and it's a mouthful. It's the big batch calcium boosted beef. And that is what's tucked away in the freezer so that you can make not just this dish, the second dish we're making, and then plus 2 other dishes. So it's jam-packed in your freezer for meals and minutes. And with a few other ingredients, you're gonna have a delicious meal. And so far, all 4 of them have been winners in my house, which is always a great start because I know that can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're cooking for a family because you wanna try to make everybody happy. So the first thing, as I mentioned, I have pasta boiling away in my pot. And the pasta I'm using is rotini. It's a short pasta, a little bit of a curl, if you will, a little screw type pasta. I'm gonna just test it because it's probably almost done. It's almost there. Like tasting it is really the best way to know when it's done. So big pot of water. You can salt the water if you're using salt. If you're not to worry. There's lots of flavor in the sauce that will come through. And I'm stirring the pasta. So I don't want to just put it in there and let it sit there because I don't want a big clump of pasta. So stirring it will ensure that it's nice and loose when I go to drain it. And then tasting it will make sure that it's the right texture for the sauce. So the key part to our sauce to make it nice and creamy and come together is this cooking water. So if you've never used pasta cooking water in your sauces, it's a key to a lot of components creating that creaminess and keeping things together because a little bit of that starch that's in the pasta cooks out in the water and then it helps bind the sauce that you're using it. So it adds some creaminess and it's there. We've created this delicious pasta water, so we're going to use it. So I'm going to, glass measuring cup, reserve about a cup of it. So the part that is most important here is that you do this before you drain the pasta, or else you'll be kind of trying to catch the pasta in the strainer in the water and it's never fun. So what I'm going to do is just with my measuring cup, just kind of go to the side of the pot and grab my pasta water before I drain it. Okay, so about a cup, and then set this aside so that you know where it is. If you have somebody helping you in the kitchen, make sure they know that this needs to remain on the counter, not get dumped. It's happened to all of us probably if we've used cooking water in the past. I know I myself have been the one, I'm like, what is this water for? So keep that set aside. So I'm going to taste this one more time. And what we're looking for is a nice kind of tender but firm pasta. And we're doing this first because in all honesty, this kind of takes the longest, is cooking the pasta. It takes about 10 minutes. That's why I started it. So it is ready. So I'm going to go to the sink and drain the pasta. And then you can just leave it in the colander if you want. If you want to put it back in the pot, totally up to you. But the sauce usually takes about 10 minutes to make. So it won't be sitting too long. Okay, so I'm going to just drain that. I'll leave it in the colander so that it's ready for me. If you want, you can put the pot lid on it so that it stays warm. But I usually leave it because it will finish cooking and heat through in the sauce. So I don't cover it because I don't want it to kind of keep cooking too much. So now we get to start cooking. I'm going to start with a little bit of oil. So this is our sauce. And our big batch calcium boosted beef is what I'm going to tell you about when we get there. But we're going to add some veggies and some color to this sauce. And this is where you can kind of use what's in the recipe, which is always recommended because we've tested it. But I'm going to give you some options, okay? I'm also going to look at the recipe to make sure that I don't, that's always key for me because I cook so often from recipes with recipes that I don't want to screw this up. And because I'm doing two today, it's really important that I don't mix up the ingredients because they're kind of two different taste profiles. All right, so we're gonna start off with that little bit of oil. This could be olive oil, canola oil, whatever you happen to have on hand. And I'm using a nice large skillet. If you happen to have one that's got high sides like mine, even better, because then you can put the pasta in and toss it all together. Okay, I'm gonna start off with some zucchini. Just one zucchini chopped up. If you don't have zucchini, this could be a pepper. If you love eggplant, you could use eggplant. An Asian eggplant would be delicious here. Will need to cook a little bit longer than the zucchini, but I really want to have the fresh vibrancy and texture of the vegetables against the tenderness of the pasta too. So if you leave them a little bit crisp, so that's why veggies like zucchini and peppers work really well. Even some green beans would be delicious in here, okay? So I'm going to add that with my tomatoes. And these are just grape tomatoes. How many do I need here? The whole container, which is just one of those little 200-gram containers of grape tomatoes, and I've halved them. So this kind of creates a little bit of sauciness as well, because some of that natural juice is gonna come out of the grape tomatoes, okay? So I wanna get a little bit of color on here and soften the vegetables as well. Okay. So if you're getting the feeling that this could be a summery dish, totally. Think about all those zucchinis that are gonna start popping up after you plant your garden. What are you gonna do with them? Here's one recipe that you're gonna use that zucchini for. So it'll be absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna let that cook for a little bit and just get some color on it. I'm gonna tell you about our beef mixture, which is what I have here. So this is our big batch, a quarter of our big batch boosted beef, calcium boosted beef. So what this mixture is, Tracie gave you the details at the beginning. You'll find the recipe for it at Osteoporosis Canada. And I think she's gonna post the link in the chat too. So don't worry, you can still relax. But this is our ground beef mixture that is enhanced or boosted with calcium. So if you're wondering in this skillet, why I haven't added onions or garlic, they're all in here. It's already in this mixture. And this is the mixture that you can make ahead. So it's ground beef with onions, garlic, and then it has been boosted with a milk sauce and a little bit of mozzarella cheese. And if you're thinking, whoa, what is going on? That seems like its own mixture. It is its own mixture. And you can use it on its own. It would make a great taco filling, for example, with a little taco seasoning. But this is meant to be used for multiple recipes. And two of them, as I said, I'm going to show you today. So the other two are great as a pizza and a ramen soup. If you want to check out those recipes too, they're on the website. And it just shows you the versatility of how you can do this meal prep. So it's 3 pounds of ground beef that you divide amongst 4. And what I do is pack them in these resealable bags, take out the air, make sure it's nice and flat, because then you can just freeze them, stack them like that, freeze them, and they don't take up very much space in your freezer. Write down what it is, because that's really important if you go to grab it. And then that's really kind of speeds up this part of the meal preparation. And when you're ready to cook with it, just take it out the night before and leave it in the fridge so it thaws and it's ready to go, okay? So what I'm gonna do is add my beef mixture, because I started to get a little bit of color on my veg, and in goes my beef. Okay, and I'm just gonna start breaking that up. So here's where you're getting that bonus, the protein, okay? As well as some added calcium, because it's already in our beef mixture. And you're starting to see the grape tomatoes are wilting a little bit, they're getting a little bit soft. So the juices are gonna come out, as well as some of the flavor, okay? Now, if you're a garlic fan like I am, you could always add some more garlic to the veggies. So a couple cloves of minced garlic as you're sauteing it would be beautiful. You could also add some fresh herbs here if you wanted to. So again, if you're thinking summertime and you have a great garden full of herbs, parsley, basil, oregano, any of those fresh herbs chopped up would be lovely in this dish. So it just kind of brings out the brightness, okay? So we have a couple other ingredients that I'm gonna grab one from the fridge that are helping with our calcium boost. And one of them is the ricotta, the ricotta cheese, okay? You don't need too much. We only need about half a cup. And we're also going to be adding some grated Parmesan cheese. So this really helps create that creaminess, but is also helping boost our calcium, okay? Because we're talking about bone health and we really want to kind of strengthen our meals. And by strengthening the calcium and the protein, we're helping out our bones as well, okay? So I'm stirring this up. I don't know if you can kind of see in my skillet, there's a little bit of a creaminess at the bottom. So it's just kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but that's just the cream, not cream, but the milk sauce that we used within that big batch calcium boosted beef. So it leaches out a little bit and that kind of starts building that creaminess right away, okay? So this doesn't really take long, especially if you have a nice large skillet to cook through and heat through. And it smells amazing. I do this, but I don't think that you're gonna get very much. Just imagine this lovely aroma of veggies at home through the screen. I'm gonna grab the pasta because that's what goes in. I'm gonna give it a little shake here. So you can see I still have, it's kind of still steaming. I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna add this right into my nice big skillet. Okay. So this is if you happen to have the pasta sitting for just a little bit longer, that's totally okay because it will heat through in the sauce. Okay, so you don't have to worry. Now I'm stirring this through and then I'm going to add my ricotta cheese. That goes right in. And if you have everything at room temperature, it'll heat through a little bit quicker. So for example, I took the ricotta cheese right out of the fridge, so it'll be a little colder, but that's okay. It will heat through really nicely. The Parmesan's going in. Okay, so if you look at it and you think, oh, well, that looks pretty good, but it's kind of dry. So this is where our magic of cooking pasta, cooking water comes in, and I start to drizzle this through, okay? And this is really what creates that nice kind of creamy sauce. Now, I grew up eating ricotta in my pasta, and I absolutely loved it. So I know that my grandmother was really good at keeping pasta water nearby so that she could stir it into the pasta with the ricotta cheese and Parmesan. And I would just sit there and it created, don't think super smooth because you have to remember ricotta is a fresh cheese. So it does have a little bit of texture, but it does become really creamy when you're eating it with the pasta. And here we get the benefit of having that lovely ground beef mixture that's all the way through, as well as the color of the veggies, okay? Are you hungry yet, Tracie? I imagine that you're hungry.
Oh, this is so hard. We always get to watch Emily, and then we just have to imagine what it tastes like until we make it ourselves. It looks really good, and I do love ricotta in my pasta. Now, I have two questions, and it's actually about the big batch calcium boosted beef. Say that 5 times fast. Dean has a question, and he's asking that instead of using flour in that recipe, could you use milk powder, dry milk powder?
So the dried, what I would do is you kind of need the flour there to help build the sauce. So your option there, Trace, you're not going to like to hear this, but cream will work without flour. But the milk powder, you could definitely add, it doesn't replace the flour, but you can add milk powder to the mixture because that will enhance, and I can't give you the exact amount, but it will definitely enhance the amount of calcium that goes in to the entire mixture, right? Because it is milk powder, but it doesn't have the binding power that the flour does to create that sauce, okay? So hopefully that answers that question. Now, if it's gluten related, then it's a little bit different because then you're still gonna need to kind of thicken the sauce, and a cornstarch slurry will work. So a little bit of cornstarch and water or milk whisked together and cooked at the end, as opposed to in the beginning where the flour is in the recipe. So hopefully that makes sense. But I would certainly add a couple tablespoons of milk powder into the mix. Just whisk it in with the milk and then add it in there because it would be fabulous. Was there another question?
We have one more question. Yeah, no, we have one more on that. So could you use gluten? gluten-free flour instead of regular flour. And is that the cornstarch slurry that you were just kind of referencing?
That is. So
That's
if it is
okay.
the gluten-free flour, remember, it's gluten-free, so it doesn't have that same binding power as a full wheat flour would. So cornstarch would be your replacement, which is gluten-free. So you could use that in place of the flour for the big batch beef. So basically what it is, in the big batch beef recipe, you cook the flour and then you're adding the milk mixture. So it's a little bit of a change. Anytime you use cornstarch, you use it at the end and then thicken it, as opposed to watching that thickening happening from the beginning. So it is just a little bit of a reversal of technique with using cornstarch, but that will cover you for the gluten-free option. Okay, so I happen to have I had a few sprigs of parsley left over in my fridge. So I thought, perfect, I'm gonna add those right at the end. If you want, you could just sprinkle it on top, but I figure why not stir it right in there, because then you're gonna get this wonderful fresh aroma and flavor throughout, not just on top. Okay, that's it. That's our pasta, Tracie. It's that fast.
And it would be faster if Emily and I weren't chatting. So just imagine how quick you can get this meal on the table if you didn't have us chatting, but that's the fun part. So that, I know Emily, so that, look how quick that was. That was because, so if you take a day, make your big batch calcium boosted beef, you cool it, you separate it, you freeze it, you can literally just pull it out in a matter of minutes. And the versatility with this recipe is, like Emily was saying, whatever vegetable, if you like peppers and mushrooms, throw peppers and mushrooms in if you don't have zucchini or eggplant. You know, like, and especially in the summer, this is beautiful in the summer when you have all the produce from the farmers markets and from your own garden. You know, it's really great. We did have a couple of other questions on this. So somebody asked, you know, could we replace the pasta with brown rice? Thinking yes.
Oh, yeah,
whatever
definitely.
Whatever you want.
Definitely. And the pasta that I used happens to be a fiber enriched pasta. So it's a 375 gram box. So slightly smaller than your 400 and 450 gram boxes. So remember that, because if you're just using pasta you have at home, if you use a full pound of pasta, the sauce is going to feel like there's not enough. However, that cooking water will help you, because I didn't use it all. I used about half a cup in the mix. So it does kind of cover you, but brown rice, quinoa, if you wanted to, and definitely, you know, that same mixture. And then if you wanted to, you can even make it like as a bowl. So heat up the big batch calcium boosted beef in a skillet, and then build your bowl on top of brown rice, quinoa, if you had couscous, and then, you know, top it with the saute of zucchini and tomatoes. And then you can, you know, put a dollop of ricotta in there. That would be absolutely delicious if you'd like, or some shredded cheese as well. So there's lots of options. Again, it's great kind of doing these webinars because we created recipes for the big batch calcium boosted beef. But the more we talk about it and hear from you, the more we find out there's many more ways to use it. And I think that's the versatility that Tracie was talking about. But what's great about it is that once you kind of see how it's being used, or the fact that you can make it, freeze it for, you know, 6 months if you'd like, pull it out, and you have this kind of quick meal that it might inspire you to do different things. Like one of my favorite ones, Tracie, is the Turkish pizza, because you literally are just heating it up, putting it on the naan bread, tuck it in the oven, and it's just a great kind of protein. If you have kids that are super hungry after school, it's a great snack, but it also, with a salad, is a lovely meal. So there's lots of wonderful options for everyone, really.
And I'm going to share the other two recipes that we had done earlier in a cooking demo. I'll share those links while Emily starts with the second recipe. But the last question right now for the pasta recipe is, if somebody wanted to make leftovers, like, is this going to be a bit dry the next day? What if they wanted to freeze it? What would you suggest?
So when you're talking leftovers, you're talking about this whole dish, right?
Yep.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you about this. Don't freeze this, because it'll just kind of be mushy and you'll be like, why did I make it? in the fridge overnight. You're going to take this for lunch. What I would do is you could add a splash of milk to it before heating it up, and then just heat it up. So you're adding a little bit of moisture. You could do the same with a little bit of hot water if you wanted to, and just pop it in the microwave to heat through. Some people save their cooking water, tuck it in the fridge, and then heat it in a skillet, just like I did, with some more cooking water. It dilutes the flavor a little bit, but it's adding moisture, which is what the pasta needs. If you want to make this a head-to-head, so by making the big batch calcium boosted beef, you have that. And let's say you're just cooking for yourself tonight. So what you're going to do is just take some of this, heat it up, and you're going to cook some pasta ahead of time and keep it in the fridge. So I usually cook a package of pasta. I cook it just slightly under al dente. So it still has quite a firm bite to it. Drain it, rinse it with cool water, toss it with a little bit of neutral oil, and then keep it in the refrigerator. You can keep it in a resealable bag, a bowl, whatever works for you, a container with a lid, and then take a little bit out and just heat it up in a skillet with the calcium boosted beef. Let's say you want it to be saucy tomato sauce. You have some tomato sauce, stir that all together, and you have a quick little meal. You could also just chop up some veggies, saute that with the calcium boosted beef, and add that pasta with it. So now what you've done is you're extending it, and you can actually change it through the week. So if you leave your calcium, your big batch beef ready in the fridge, you can use it over the course of a couple days. Do use it up in the course of a couple days and create those different meals. You can have soup one night, you can have pasta another night, or you can make these portions smaller. So these are meant for servings of 4. So if you know already that you only need servings of 2, you're going to get 8 of these as opposed to 4. So you've already planned 8 meals. Isn't that fabulous? So there is that kind of versatility. But in order for this to get tucked away, I wouldn't package it up and freeze it because it really won't benefit all the ingredients that you're using. So hopefully that helps with all those components. Maybe I confused people. I really hope.
No, that's great. And I love how you said, yeah, you could throw some red sauce in there. Like, I mean, this really is, we all know pasta is so versatile. If you want to make the rice, you can do the rice. But for this recipe, oh my God, I lost the thought. I lost the question, Emily. What's happening? Oh my God. Oh, so much is happening. Okay, we'll just leave this here because I completely lost that question. What I would say though is, I know, seriously, we normally say freeze. We try to, because we love it. But in this case, oh, I do remember. So Emily made mention that if you're going to prep your pasta in advance, you can rinse it in cool water. However, we don't say to rinse your pasta in general. Like if you're going to make it fresh, don't rinse, because you're going to rinse all the starch off, nothing will stick to it. But if you don't rinse a little bit, if you're going to put it, just boil it and put it in the fridge, you're going to end up with a big clump, and it's going to be really hard if you want to eat it that way. It's all about personal choice, but that's up to you. So that was the note I wanted to make. So I think we're good with the pasta. This is great. Arlene's she's all excited. This is a great recipe. Okay, super. Let's now make a stir fry. Come on, Emily, what are we doing?
This one's even faster than the last one, guys, okay? Because you're going to have your big batch beef in the freezer, you're going to have a bag of veggies, and we're going to make a stir fry. So in my house, stir fries rule. Everybody seems to love them, and you can change up the flavor simply by changing the vegetables or the sauces that you add to them. So this is an Asian mix, and I'll read to you what it is. It's broccoli, green beans, carrots, onions, red peppers, mushrooms. There's a Thai frozen veg mix. There's lots of options. You can even just use broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots if you don't want anything kind of too crazy. But this is a nice big 750 gram bag. So there's lots of veggies in here that are fabulous because we want speed. So, and these go on sale often. So you can get, this is 6 cups, by the way, because you do have the option to clean up that crisper. I know you probably have some carrots and celery lurking in there, maybe a pepper that's a little soft. Chop them all up. Get about 6 cups. You have stir-fry veg. And here's for my freezer friends, you can freeze that. And then you have your own mix, okay? So if you have those veggies that are lurking and you're like, oh, I can't get to them this week, chop them up, measure out 6 cups, and then put them in resealable bags, tuck them in the freezer so that next week when you want to make this recipe, you have the veggies and you have the big batch calcium boosted beef ready to go, okay? So what takes the longest? The frozen veggies, because they're frozen. So if you want, you can actually thaw them a little bit to speed up this cooking time. I'm just gonna grab a spatula here so I can stir as I chat. I did have a little bit of neutral oil in here, but you can also use sesame oil instead, okay? I'm gonna add a little bit. In the recipe, it actually does use sesame oil. So if you don't have, I don't wanna make you go out and buy sesame oil if you don't have it, so don't worry. You can use just neutral oil, whatever oil you happen to have on hand. However, this adds a ton of flavor, okay? And you don't need very much. We're using a non-stick skillet. So in this case, a tablespoon is enough. Just making sure that I still have heat underneath there. So this is what we're doing. We're sauteing this vegetable mixture to thaw it, and it's also going to evaporate some of the water from being frozen, okay? And because this is a smaller mix, so if you take a look at my skillet, most of the vegetables are pretty small in their size, so everything's going to cook fairly evenly, except sometimes you can see I got a couple of these bigger pieces of broccoli, so they're going to take a bit longer. But that doesn't mean you can't kind of go ahead and push forward with the rest of the recipe. So I'm going to just let that, I love the red peppers in here. So if you ever thought that you couldn't freeze peppers, you totally can freeze peppers. So that's why if you need to dig into your crisper tonight, I know it's Wednesday, it's midway through the week, maybe you're planning for the weekend. You have on its way, perfect time to do. I want to say something because you said.
Hey, Emily.
Yeah.
Emily, guess what's happening?
Yeah.
Your audio's cutting in and out just a little bit. So let's just, it's working, but it's just cutting out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit louder?
Let me take these out.
Yeah, you're good. I can hear you. So,
Oh.
So we're now going to use different audio, but we can hear you. You're just going to project.
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes.
me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I've done a combination here of this and this. We'll see. If it's really bad, just let me know and we'll change it. Technology, friends.
I know.
Always changing. There we go. Okay. So now what was I saying? Yes, you had mentioned, Tracie, about take a day and, get the big batch calcium boost. It's not going to take a day, everybody. I don't want Tracie to give you the wrong information. It's basically cooking the beef. You do need to let it cool. So in that cooling time, you can do some other things and then package it up and then tuck it in the freezer. So in the meantime, as the beef's cooling, you can be chopping vegetables and getting other meal prep things ready. Okay. So don't worry if you still have time to binge watch whatever you'd like. Actually have the TV on in the kitchen while you're doing it. It's super fun. Okay, so I'm just stirring this around and I have very little heat coming out. So that means my burner may go sooner than I expected. All right, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna add our beef mixture in here. So if you remember, you remember what I told you, what's in this calcium boosted beef is it's a milk sauce and there's mozzarella cheese in it. So one of the main questions that we get often about this recipe is, isn't it going to be kind of weird because there's cheese in there and you're making a stir fry? Nope. What it does, it actually creates a little bit of added creaminess. So that creaminess that I was talking about in the pasta dish comes out slightly differently in a stir fry, okay? So it just adds a lovely, lovely texture to it. And you know what, when you taste it, you're not even gonna notice it because mozzarella doesn't really have any flavor, right? So it's really going to absorb the flavor that you give it. And that is in the form of the two sauces that we're going to add. which are soy sauce and hoisin. So kind of classic stir fry sauces. I'm just going to change my butane so that I have enough power here of heat to cook the stir fry. So stir fries are usually done kind of a nice medium high if you're using a nonstick skillet. If you are using a wok, you can definitely use something of a higher heat, but this is just a nonstick skillet that I'm using. So I'm using a medium high heat. All right, so my beef mixture is in, and that's when I'm going to add my two sauces, as I mentioned. So some soy sauce. And if you are kind of keeping track of your sodium levels, you can use a sodium reduced sauce. But one of the things that you can also remember is that this is something that I'm not eating it every day. So having these sauces proportionately is okay. Is that okay to say, Tracie? I don't want to, step over the line when it comes to sodium and sauces.
No, you're absolutely right. And we've shared this before because we've done some other stir fry recipes. And it's all about planning and balance. And if, you can cut it down a little bit, but you do sacrifice a bit of the flavor with that. And only you can know what you are comfortable consuming. So that's something, that's why it's great. If you have a registered dietitian that you can go talk to, they can help you, with some other strategies and meal planning, because we know a lot of people who are managing their bone health and osteoporosis are also managing other, health conditions. Maybe it's high blood pressure, maybe it's diabetes. So these are things that, you can speak to a health professional to help you kind of balance all your needs, all your nutrient needs and what you can, and perhaps just minimize maybe certain foods. But these are very conservative amounts in here, but you guys make the choice. How's it going? Did the butane light? Are we good?
Oh yeah, no, it's good. We have power, don't worry. Okay. I added the hoisin sauce in there too, as Tracie was chatting. And it's really just those two kind of big flavors that overall enhance the stir fry. So once they're in, you need to just stir it around. And Tracie was talking about some of the other things that come up with osteoporosis. And one of the things that we often get asked about is chopping, and if you have any kind of pain in your wrists and things like that. So this is a great recipe because we're not chopping a bunch of vegetables by using the frozen vegetables. And within the big batch calcium boosted beef, there's onions and garlic that you could just put into your food processor, pulse them up, and then add that into the ground beef mixture as you're cooking it. So there's lots of great ways to kind of cut out a little bit of those tasks that may be causing you pain in the kitchen, because we definitely don't want that happening. Okay, so here is our mixture. That's it. Like, this is how fast this is. So the whole time while I was cooking, because I mean, this is delicious. You could eat this again. We talked about rice, quinoa, couscous for this dish, but this is perfect for rice. So I used my rice cooker so that I had kind of everything going at the same time to kind of speed up my meal. If you wanted to, you could use brown rice or quinoa, anything that you would love to serve your stir fry with, and cook it in the rice cooker easily, okay? I had some regular sticky rice that I put in there to serve up with the stir fry. This is also delicious with noodles. So if you are a fan of egg noodles or ramen noodles, anything like that, you could serve the stir fry on that as well, okay? So I'm gonna actually serve up some of the rice, because this has a little bit of crunch that we're gonna add with some toasted almonds, okay? I love stir fries that have a nut topping, because it adds a nice crunch to the texture of the stir fries. So I just toasted up. These are toasted almonds that I tucked in the oven at 350 degrees. Usually takes about 5 to 8 minutes. If you smell them, you may have over toasted them. So just as they start to begin that lovely aroma in your kitchen, you want to take them out and cool them. So just a nice light toast. And you can do that ahead of time so that you always have toasted almonds. Just keep them in the freezer so that they don't go rancid. Okay. So I'm gonna get a little bit of this rice. Tracie, there's way too much for me to eat today. I hope you realize.
I know we're always like, Emily, you have to taste. We're just going to have to taste everything. So I'm actually just posting in the chat. I put the other two recipes that we use the big batch beef for. So one was the Turkish style pizza, which we use flatbreads for. It's very easy to make. And then the other one is a beef ramen noodle soup. So these were, and you can also watch the cooking demo because we recorded it. It's available on the OC Replay webpage. So you can just get the links in there. Somebody just asked a question. Emily June wants to know, is it better to toast nuts in the oven or can you use the microwave?
Oh, well, I toast, when I toast nuts, I toast a larger amount. So I always do them in the oven or stovetop in a skillet so that they're flat so I can see them. Microwave, you could do small batches. So if you only need a few, you could do that. Keep an eye on them because all microwaves are different. So sometimes it'll recommend doing it in 10 or 15-second intervals. But if you are being attentive or want to be attentive, you can do it in a skillet. I find that it's a little bit quicker and you can kind of see it. You don't have to kind of go in and out of the microwave all the time. So again, just you can use a small dry skillet, put your nuts in, and then over kind of a medium-low heat and just shake the pan. And again, within about 5 minutes, it's done. So the time between the microwave and stovetop is like by minutes. So, but you can keep an eye on it. So that's the good part. But if you're doing a larger amount, I think that it's always good to have it in the oven in a baking sheet, but keep an eye on it, that's all. I do want to point out, Tracie, so often with stir fries, you're like, love the sauce, right? Because that's the whole, I love sauce, stir fries, pastas, everything. But I want you to take a look at my skillet. So this is the combination of what comes out of the big batch calcium boosted beef and the hoisin and soy sauce. So it has that beautiful golden color. And this is the sauce that adds the flavor to the rice below, okay? So that's one of the bonuses of having the combination together. And then it is kind of diluted a bit from the water from the vegetables as well, okay? So to me, it seems like a great balance of flavor in the stir fry. And then you're just gonna take some of your almonds. And why do we love almonds, Tracie?
Because they have some calcium in there and protein. So these are all, so actually I was just going to say, the reason we chose that specific variety of frozen vegetables is because it does have broccoli in there and broccoli has some calcium. It's always about making, the choices to increase, your vegetables and your protein and your grains to see which ones you can add that have some calcium and protein and other really good bone building nutrients. So if you're going to make the switch, try to pick other vegetables. Like if, let's say you're not a fan of broccoli, bok choy is a great choice. And actually bok choy per serving has more calcium than broccoli does. And I've seen it frozen in bags in the freezer section at certain grocery stores. So definitely take a look on that. If you can't eat nuts, we know there's some people who have an allergy. That's fine. These are strategies to help you figure out your daily allowance. And you can actually, I'll show you when we're done this, the calcium calculator on the website can help you kind of calculate the amount of calcium you're getting from your foods. Now, I know I love to freeze everything. We try to say freeze everything. However, in this instance, we've already frozen. We froze the beef. The batch beef so we're not suggesting, right, Emily, to now refreeze. Like we've already said, don't freeze the pasta, don't freeze the stir fry. It's great as a leftover for the next day to pack it up in a lunch, yes, or maybe have for dinner again, right, Emily? But this is one of the ones we would say, yeah, don't make all of this and then freeze it again.
So again, if we're looking for kind of a smaller household, let's say you're cooking for one or two, just take a portion of the veggies out, saute them, add the big batch calcium boosted beef. So you're using a smaller portion. So, breaking it down, think ahead when you're making that big batch calcium boosted beef, which is, again, you divide it into 4 so that you get 4 recipes. However, if you're only cooking for 2, or you need 1 for dinner, 1 for lunch, and you are cooking for 2 essentially, that's where you can break it down into 8. And then these recipes are very easy to kind of heat up. As you can see, we did 2 of them. which would have taken less time if Tracie and I weren't talking. But it just happens really quickly. So if you need a nice quick protein and calcium boost for dinner, these are great examples of getting it done in literally under like 15 minutes. I know I did some chopping ahead, the zucchini and the tomatoes, but you could be doing that while the pasta's cooking. So that, and if you were using, you had your pot on and then a skillet beside it, you didn't want to use kind of, do one at a time like I did, you could definitely speed up that cooking time for sure. Any other questions, Tracie?
No, I did have someone say they couldn't copy and paste the other recipe links I popped in the chat. So I just put in osteoporosis.ca/recipes. Even if you don't remember the recipe part, osteoporosis.ca, very easy to find all our recipes. So I guess we're good. Look at that. 2 recipes under an hour, actually under 50 minutes. And without us talking, it would be done a lot faster, like we said, but we love to chat. We love to answer your questions. And I'm going to announce who's going to win this great Unbreakable apron. So congratulations to Eleanor Senek. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, from Aurora, Ontario. So Eleanor, congratulations. Yay, we're going to send you an email. We're going to mail you out that apron. And oh, yay, Bonnie, congratulations. So super. So I'm going to just share my screen, and I want to let everyone know. So these are a lot of the other recipes that we have. Great variety, all different kinds of protein, calcium, snacks, breakfasts, spring recipes, fall recipes. So please visit the website. Now this cooking demo is the last in this series. So we are working on a new series of recipes and cooking demos that we will launch in a few weeks, but we have other webinars. So this month in March, we have a webinar on the benefits of protein and exercise. That's Thursday, March 16th. And we have a webinar with pharmacist Terry Charrois, Common Questions about Osteoporosis and Drug Therapies. That's Tuesday, March 21st. You can register for these free webinars. Again, just visit the website, go to the events page, and you can register there. We have 2 new podcasts that we just released on osteoporosis and osteoarthritis with Dr. Heather McDonald-Bloomer, and also Exercise After a Fracture with Dr. Caitlin MacArthur. These are also, you can stream them on your favorite podcast provider, or you can stream them directly off of our website. Please visit osteoporosis.ca and you can get more information and to also see upcoming events and webinars. Now, as I was sharing, to help you with your calcium, we've got our calcium calculator. So you can also find that on the website, put in an average day, see where you can improve if you need to, and the different types of foods that you can get. Again, Unbreakable, the OC podcast, lots of great topics. We have the OC blog, and this webinar is recorded, and like our other webinars, will be available on the OC replay webpage. So if you registered for this webinar, you will be receiving an email in about a day, 24 hours. We will provide you with the link. And again, that is at the website. We want to thank our partners, thinkbeef.ca, for helping us provide content like this. And of course, Emily, thank you as always for being so great and helping us learn so much about making these meals in minutes. And to get this information directly to your inbox, just go to our homepage, top right-hand corner, there's the subscribe button. And you can then get information directly to your inbox. And also you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I know a lot of you are coming to us from social platforms when you see our information out there, so welcome. And we hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. And until we see you next time, stay well and take care. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Tracie.